everybody. My name is Grace Odell and I'm a piano teacher at Bass Academy of Music. And my live video today is for parents whose kids are taking piano lessons, and it's just a little bit of advice about how to help your kids with practicing. So I'm going to take just a minute and let some people hop on. I'm going to share this on my personal page, and I'll check back in just a minute. Oh, man. This is really confusing. I don't know how to share this. I'm not usually use the app, and it's forcing me to use the app instead of Safari. Oh, here we go. Okay, that should work. Alright, like I said a minute ago, my name is Grace Odell and I'm a piano teacher at Bass Academy of Music, and the topic today is how to help your kid practice piano. So, I guess the first thing I want to address is like what your role. It differs depending on how old your kid is. So I'll start out maybe talking about younger kids, because a lot of younger kids really need some help practicing, and they, if they get sent off to do it alone, they feel a little bit lost, even if I've talked with them in lessons about like how to practice. And so there's a temptation for parents when they're helping with the young kids to kind of just answer the questions for them and be like, here's where you put your hands, here's how you play the notes, here's how you do everything. And even though, helping them is good, kind of trying to frame it in a way so that they're the ones making the discoveries. So, for example, what I usually do in my lessons, and what would be helpful in the practice, is to ask questions. If they're just sitting there looking at the music and seem like they have no idea what's going on, instead of saying, okay, look, here's where you put your hands, you can say, hey, are you confused about where to put your hands? And then you can kind of gently guide them along that way. So for the young kids, like one of the main things that will help them practice is just pointing to the notes. So like if you've got, because basically what we want to do is we want to get their eyes following the music, and so a really huge way you can help that is to just sit there and point. And if you have to be pointing at the same note for 5 minutes solid, you just sit there and wait for them to get it, because just telling them what note it is isn't really gonna help. So as they're playing this, you're just like pointing here, they get that one, point at the next one, and then that'll help them kind of train their eyes to just stay here and move in this linear way. Another thing that's related to that is a lot of kids will get distracted by looking down at their hands, and then when they look back up at the music, they don't know where they are. And so along with the pointing can help with that, but another thing that can help is to actually cover their hands with something. So I just tend to use like a piece of paper or another book, and like if they're playing a song like this, I mean, I can't like really demonstrate it because I'm only one person. But if they were just like using one hand, I would take a book and I would kind of hold it like this, so that as they're playing, that they can't look at their hands, or if they look down, they're immediately propelled to look right back up. And that can be really, really helpful to kind of develop this habit of looking at the music at the beginning. I mean, because at the beginning especially, I mean, once you're playing more complicated music, you're gonna have to look at your hands. But if you're playing music like this, where every finger is tied to a certain note, then you don't need to look at your hands. You know which finger to wiggle. And so that can be a really helpful thing. So the main thing for the young kids is to if you want to help them practice, is to hold something over their hands, or to kind of give them some pointers, some pointing along with the music. The other thing is to really ask questions. So instead of saying, here's where you put your hands, say, where do your hands go? And if they're confused about that, then kind of helping them and guiding them in that way. And so while, like I said, with the younger kids, it's really helpful to be with them and help them practice, sometimes it is also helpful to just walk away and to just let them kind of be frustrated and figure things out on their own. So, and that's kind of like really for you, like if you don't have time to help them practice that day, then that's a day that they just have to sit there and be frustrated. And another thing that's really important is trying to find like one day or one time out of the day that they can practice consistently. So that if you can find the same time every day and that's practice time, then it's not as much like a chore that needs to get done, it's a part of the routine. So like when I was a kid, I would practice every morning before going to school, which isn't an option for some people. They like to sleep in or whatever, but it doesn't have to be then. It could be, in the evening right before they brush their teeth, or right when they get home from school, or, if they practice for 10, 15 minutes, then they can play their video games right after, or something like this. But to frame it in a way so that it's like, this is something that happens every day, and this is just a part of the day. And then that can help them kind of get used to this idea of this isn't just a random thing that sometimes my parents make me do, it's a routine. And so if you kind of start this when they're young, then like it'll just become part of their life, and it'll just become something that, at least for me, after a while, it was like I really missed it if it didn't get to happen that day. And this doesn't mean you can't take days off. Like, I might not should say this, but I've never practiced on the weekend unless I like randomly was like, oh, I feel like practicing today. But taking days off is okay too. And so part of the, like I said, sometimes you just walk away and let them be frustrated. Part of it too is allowing them to kind of be creative and have just kind of pure exploration time. And I know when I'm teaching, a lot of kids get down at the piano and they're just like, they're just like exploring all the sounds, and sometimes it just turns into how hard can I hit the piano, and maybe that's not the most effective method of exploration. But if you can have a certain amount of time where maybe even just set a timer and say, all right, like, go for it, just make stuff up, have fun, explore what the keyboard sounds like, then they can be encouraged to feel creative and to feel like their time with piano is something that they can really own. Sometimes if you're practicing music that's been assigned to you, even if it's music you like, it can get kind of like, oh, well, this is the chore, this is the task, I have to check off the boxes. But if you actually set aside time for them to explore and to be creative, then it can kind of reach the point where it's their thing, not something that they're kind of forced to do. So today I was just talking a little bit about kind of the younger kids and kind of how to structure practice for them. And then next week I'm hoping to get into a little bit more about older kids and about specific practice techniques. A lot of people play, or a lot of, well, people and kids, and their idea of practice is to play the same thing over and over and over. And so next week I'm going to talk a little bit about ways to get away from that and ways to help your kid kind of guide them away from that. So so that was my talk for today. Like I said at the beginning, my name is Grace Odell, and I'm a piano teacher at Base Academy of Music. And so next week, like I said, I'll be talking about helping older kids practice. And there are live videos at noon every day of the week, I believe. So tune back in for more next week. And if you're interested about Base Academy of Music, or you might want to sign your kid up for lessons, you can visit the website at bamkc.org. And any questions you have for future live videos, or just any questions about BAM, just let me know, and I'd love to talk to you. Thank you so much. See you next week.